better.
Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Wednesday, November the 1st. Let's welcome the month of November and let's welcome the new month with one of our favorite people, Leslie Eastman, great friend of our show, as well as a contributor to Legal Insurrection. So happy November, Leslie.
Happy November, Silvio. Great to be here. I hope you and everybody in the audience had a happy Halloween with
Well,
plenty of candy and joy.
let's talk about Halloween a little bit. That's always one of your favorite holidays. We always have you, on or before Halloween. And so, did you do anything special for Halloween this year, Leslie?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't get for our traditional show. My regular day job's kind of taken off, so it limits my time. I carved out a little time today. But yes, I went over to a friend's house dressed as Katniss Everdeen from Hunger Games because I thought, given today's environment, Hunger Games was a kind of a good vibe to chime in. And I have an archery kit now, and I got my French hair the braids in my French hair styled, and it was really just really very fun, and handed out lots more candy than we thought we were going to, which is good. And connected with spirits, mainly Captain Morgan, but yeah, good time was had by all.
Great. Well, that was great. We over here, we basically just we watched little boys sort of enjoy their first and their second Halloween. So it was just a lot of fun. Our granddaughter, who lives in New York with my son, who's over there working, they dressed her up as Princess, the one from Star Wars, Princess Layla, is it?
Badala or
Yeah.
or
So
yes.
she was really cute, dressed like that. I think the kids enjoy it a great deal, and we, the grown-ups, I guess we get to enjoy it with them. I mean, I do. I always remember our first Halloween when we came to the United States. It was something that we didn't know anything about, So like we're learning about a new holiday, and it was a lot of fun back then to go out and ask for candy, and now it's a lot of fun to put candy in the bags of little children who say trick or treat at your door, Leslie. It's kind of
Yeah,
fun.
and a little extra for really cool costumes, which I enjoy doing.
Yes,
Uh, and
yes.
there's so many of them this year. I was giving away candy left and right. We've got some really creative young people out there and parents who help support that creativity, which is probably
Yeah,
the most optimistic thing I will be saying on this entire show.
that's right. That's right. Well, that's why we're talking about it now because it's going to get a lot more negative in a couple of seconds here. But Leslie, one of the reasons that I always enjoy chatting with you is because, of course, you write at Legal Insurrection. It's one of my favorite websites, and you always write some great articles. And over the last couple of weeks, since this horrible incident in Israel, we have sort of opened the door. We've pulled the curtain, I say, on one of the worst things happening in the country, which is what is happening at the universities. All of these marches. I mean, everybody's in favor of open and healthy debate. That's a good thing. But what we're watching is a lot more sinister than that, in my opinion. I think we're watching university students being corrupted by professors, being, their minds are full of crazy and anti American and anti West ideas. And I would argue that this is a threat to civilization, our civilization, that we have the enemy is within. I'll put it that way. The enemy is within, and he is in our colleges, Leslie.
Well, I think it's a very complex web of interconnected things that really don't promote the best interest of our nation and really do undermine the pinnings of our civilization, our Greco-Roman based Judeo-Christian uh, beliefs and the governments we structured on those beliefs. So it is a complex problem. And unfortunately, complex problems do not have simple solutions. So what you need to do is tease out the various key elements of what is really contributing to this environment and decide to target various specific areas. And I think people have got to look into themselves and decide how they are going to go and target uh, things that are detrimental to the country in the way that's most effective for them, whether it be in voting, donating, getting involved physically, pursuing careers. There's a variety of choices to make here, but this is a time for serious soul searching, as many people now associated with colleges and universities apparently are now doing. And
Right.
that is a good thing.
That is a good
One
thing. That is a good thing. The fact that
one
we're
of the
having
points
this
I really wanted to
yeah.
make before
No,
we
but
get much
I just
farther.
wanted to say something real
Okay.
quickly, Leslie, just to second what you just said. You said soul searching. This is exactly what it is. We now have an opportunity to see something that is not going well, and we have an opportunity to talk about it and discuss it. I knew that there were some ugly things going on in the universities. We've seen it with the cancel culture. We've seen it with, this young woman who was not allowed to speak because she was in favor of men and women competing differently. What a radical idea. And she was not allowed to speak. So we knew that this was, cultivated in the universities. But now I think we've opened the whole curtain, and it's pretty scary. Anyway, I just wanted to say that. I know you want to add something.
Yeah, yes. The one point I wanted to add, I recently made at Legal Insurrection. COVID and that experience allowed parents of elementary, middle, and high school age students a real window into what was going on in the classrooms and the toxic environments they're in. So parents now are making more informed decisions. You're seeing more homeschooling, you're seeing more parental involvement. You see a number of different news reports saying that there are rabble rousers among parents, as parents now are challenging school boards. So that's a groundswell. The Hamas Israel situation is about the same thing for the university and college level. The barbarity of what Hamas did on October 7th to the citizens of Israel was so appalling. There is no defense. And any reasonable, normal person would see that Hamas and all the leadership that supported Hamas basically declared war on Israel on that day. And Israel is at liberty to pursue whatever defense it feels appropriate. There is an underground city carved underneath Gaza, and Israel needs to give it the Carthage treatment because that's the only effective way it can defend its person, its people. And that's what its government is obligated to do. That's what their military is trained to do. Most normies get this, but unfortunately, this has been used as the opportunity on the campuses to gin up anti-Semitism, gin up anti-Israel environment. And by context, because most normal Americans support Israel, gin up a lot of anti-American sentiment too among our young people. And you can see conflicts arising on campus as people are beginning to call out protesters, call out people tearing down posters of missing children and shaming them, which is something that has not happened before on campus. So parents are a bird's eye view now of a system that has promoted real hateful behavior to the Jewish students, to this country, and to the values that are supposed to be inherent in university and college environments. And again, there's a lot of reasons that the toxic atmosphere has been generated, a lot of different toxic elements in that atmosphere, and we need to start addressing those elements.
That's
So
right.
that's kind of my thought on all
No,
the
I think
whole
you're
situation.
you're right on target. I agree with you 100%. I think what you said about COVID is true. Back in 2020, when the kids were sent home and they were now doing their courses online, the parents saw what was being taught, and they said, wait a minute, no, we don't like that." And I think that created the backlash against the teachers' unions and against the administrations. And you now have mothers that has become a movement. There's Moms for Liberty, Moms for Educational Liberty, and all of that. And I think the same thing has to happen here. Now, of course, one of the problems is that many of these are private colleges, so they're not as regulated by the state, let's say. But I know here in Texas that the legislature, there has been talk about maybe addressing this issue at some of the colleges. But what I find most troubling is what you see in many of these young people. You see, nice looking young people saying things on television that just absolutely make no sense. This hatred of Israel. Well, that they didn't get that from their parents. I guarantee you that. They didn't get that from the high school they went to. They got that from the university they're going to, and what the professors are teaching them. And this one-sided view of Israel is crazy. It's not a black and white issue. I mean, it's a complicated issue, like you said, but Israel has the right to defend itself. And for people, people are talking about that Israel should react in a proportionate way. Come on, what does that mean? So should Israel drop 5,000 missiles on Gaza like was done to them? I mean, it's crazy. But unfortunately, the young people, Leslie, this is what they're picking up in the schools, and you see them marching. And I'll just say one more thing. I know I went too long, but you saw people being interviewed who were basically saying they didn't kill any babies. That's all fake news. Well, come on. I mean, I don't have. I saw the pictures. They were horrific of babies and families being killed. I don't need to see a lot of videos to believe it, Leslie.
Yeah, that is appalling and shows a soullessness that is really heartbreaking. But I think what has happened is that over the years, the leftists have kind of taken over all sorts of different areas on campus, and you can't get hired, you can't get promoted, you can't get tenure, you can't be brought on unless you jump through the diversity hoops, unless you agree to all the various principles, or you kind of bury yourself. It is a rare person who can manage to make it through that gauntlet and still retain any semblance of independent conservative thought. My big boss at Legal Insurrection, Bill Jacobson, one of the shining examples of somebody who's managed to survive and help lift up the independent conservative thought, the promotion of Western civilization, and protection of all sorts of ethnicities and religions, including his own, the Jewish faith. And that's phenomenal. But as the years have progressed and there are fewer pushbacks, fewer conservatives, and more strident progressives and strident, very active and activist leftists on campus, well, you can begin to see that's what's being fed at the universities. If you feed a person the bad diet, you're going to get a bad result. And we are beginning to see the bad results, which is why, among other things, people are beginning to push back. Donations have been dropped at several of the elite institutions. A Jewish school basically wrote to a bunch of universities. They will not be invited to the campus of that Jewish school to promote their organizations, their universities and colleges, unless they make it very clear that they are not anti-Semitic and they are not going all in on the pro-Palestine, colonialism garbage that is being promoted on a number of different campuses. So that is part of what is happening and part of what will help us push back and maybe take back our campuses, take back our colleges, take back our universities to the point where they now become a source of reason, learning, enrichment, and true progress and innovation.
Right. No, I agree. And one of the things that bothers me the most, and this was happening before what we just saw, is the number of professors in our universities who hate the country. They hate the United States. They hate the culture. And they hate the Western culture, but then forget that it is the Western culture that allows them to criticize the West. I mean, it is
Mhm.
our tolerance of different points of views, but they don't seem to be teaching that to the students. For example, I've had discussions with some professors about Columbus Day, and they, they want to change it to Indigenous Day or whatever. And I guess, it doesn't totally offend me, but it does bother me because I think that that is not correct to call it Indigenous Day. And I always ask these professors, okay, but what culture would you have rather lived under? Would you have preferred to live under the Western culture or the indigenous culture? Because I don't think there was a lot of tolerance for different points of view in their culture. I mean, and I use the example of Moctezuma. When Moctezuma arrested you, they didn't read you your rights. They didn't say, hey, you can talk to a lawyer. So there's a lot of things about the Western culture that allow them to criticize the Western culture, but they don't point that out to the students, Leslie.
No, everything that's not Western is there's painted over and there's a filter put on, so it's all pretty. But any student of real history realizes the Aztec did things like carve the heart out of people as a gift to their gods. Um, yeah, and slavery was rampant among our Native American friends. Intertribal warfare that was brutal, scalpings. We didn't bring that over from the West. No, that was a entirely Native American innovation. So it's every there's good points, bad points to everything, but for the most part, when you're looking for freedom and a celebration of humanity and a celebration of freedom and liberty and the ability to be the best person you can be and pursue your dreams and achieve according to your gifts to the maximum you're able to, that it really comes from Judeo-Christian, Greco-Roman, Western values. They've evolved over the time, still perfecting it because we're all humans, we're all mortal, we all make mistakes. But when you're talking about cultures that mutilate genitals of women because they're women, hide women, good example in Iran, a young girl, because she was not wearing the hijab correctly, was brutally assaulted to a point of coma and then on to death, creating unrest in Iran. There are other cultures. We can look at our Chinese friends for another example of brutality and the stifling of innovation and the stifling of things that make life worth living because of a dictatorial government. Not to say our government is any shining example nowadays, but at least currently we have optimistic chance of changing it, making better decisions in our representatives. And I hope that occurs. But for the most part, when we're looking at today's environment on campuses, we see a lot of different things. And one of the points I wanted to make is not only were the leftist professors the problem, but the supporters of the organizations on campus doing this. There's a lot of money coming in from China. There's a lot of money coming in from Middle Eastern state players who are part of the influence on the campuses and putting their mark on the young people in our country. And we should really take a good hard look at how much foreign money is coming into our institutions, and really what is that money being used for. I don't think enough thought has gone into that from our administrative university people, because they don't want all the money, they want all the donations. It doesn't matter how they get it, they want all the money. Yeah, I think they've sold their soul. And I think we need to figure out a way to get the soul of our educational system back, especially at the higher education level.
Oh, absolutely. They need to get back to teaching and preparing young people for the world and giving them an honest look at history. In other words, I think it was Elon Musk the other day who was being interviewed, and he said that it's shocking for him. And this is, of course, people need to understand. He moved here from South Africa. He's like me. He's an immigrant who came, I don't know how old he was, but probably as a kid too, like I did. And he was saying that you talk to college kids these days and you say, who's George Washington? And the first thing they say is, well, he had slaves. They don't give you any realistic, view of his life. It's all about slavery. Well, if George Washington had slaves, lots of other people did too, not just here in the North America. But it's this weird view of history where all they want to teach, it seems like a certain narrative that the United States was a bad country, it's a racist country. And like you say, mistakes were made. People are human, they make mistakes. But overall, if you're a college professor, the best place to be teaching is the United States, Leslie.
Well, yeah, I know a lot of college professors, and everyone said mad respect for some of the stuff they put up with, especially among the science posse, because I do know quite a number of science-oriented professors, and their environment isn't quite so toxic, though we do see the indoctrination, the ideological capture, if you will, of our scientific institutions, which is troubling. But I think we have churned out a lot of PhD factories needlessly, where people are getting degrees and PhDs in gender studies and women's studies and studies that just don't. There's no way to do hard data. There's no way to prove or disprove anything they have, because it's all opinion, and it's all golden opinion, and that is not really worthy of a doctorate. That might be worthy of some sort of different, type of degree that should be created special for these theoretical, non-data driven studies. But currently, the universities become tuition mills and ideology mills, and are not the kind of healthy, vibrant place where people are being taught reason thinking and the ability to explore different ideas and consider different ways of thinking. Just put the stamp on and out the door, and you're good little swords in whatever leftist war or progressive ideal state that is being creative. And I'm hoping, as parents consider colleges, they give trade schools and things, crafts, that really I think our country would value a lot as well. I think the days of just assuming a college degree is your entry into places is gone, and especially among normal people who would prefer just a happy, healthy child in a normal environment, maybe doing carpentry, maybe doing electrical work, maybe doing some sort of thing to build this country up and innovate. Because really, truly, this whole experience has been astonishingly eye-opening for many of us, including those of us in the environment, because Legal Insurrection has been following this since its inception, 2008, 2009. We've been following this. Glenn Reynolds had a great post on Substack, Professor Glenn Reynolds of Instapundit, when a law dean of the law school noticed, hey, there's all this anti-Semitism on campus. And as Glenn Reynolds wrote, welcome to the party, pal, because he has covered many, many episodes of anti-Semitism on the campus of Berkeley, and he gave 6 shining examples of it. So there should not be any surprise to any dean, any administrator who's been spending any time on their campus of what's been going on. And you all allowed it. So now you're going to start bearing the consequences, and the reckoning has begun.
Right. And I think what you said about people holding back money, that's a great thing, because they need the money, obviously. I also want to say something. I mean, and I want to make sure that I come across fairly. There's a lot of good college professors who don't like this either. I've spoken to many of them,
yes,
who are horrified by what they see, because they know what the truth is. So there is as they like to say, a big ray of hope, I think. And what you said about, initially what you said about this being an eye opener for people, this is usually how you turn things around when there's what they call mass. When you reach mass, I guess that's the Eurochemist.
Critical mass.
There you go. You're the technical person. Yeah, critical mass. I think we've reached critical mass on this, and I think over the next, couple of years when we chat, we'll be able to see improvement, I believe, in these areas, because people are beginning to realize that this is insanity. I mean, just insanity, what we have watched on our campuses. We've got about 5 minutes left, and I wanted you to tell us about your your latest Legal Insurrection article or what you're working on. If you could just update us a little bit on what we may be seeing here soon.
Oh, gee. Well, I've got a lot of interesting things, but perhaps the most recent ones, the green energy market is collapsing. A lot of investors have stopped investing in green energy funds, or shall we say ESG, environmental social governance funds, because they're not returning in investments. And a number of car makers, interestingly, are now backing off on electrical vehicle production. Uh, there has been a movement, for example, in Sweden to pursue nuclear energy, and that was off the table. Norway scientists, their statisticians, took a good hard look at the climate change models, and after analyzing over 400,000 years of data related to temperatures extracted from geologists, shout out to geologists there because I got a degree in it, noticed that there were like many interglacial glacial cycles, and we are not even close to the maximum temperature we have achieved at any of those four cycles. And so we are coming out of an ice age, which is interesting. But what was interesting about the Norwegian study is that they slammed the climate models, indicated carbon dioxide had no significant provable contribution to warming. And then in return, Norway is beginning to open up its fossil fuel production and its ability to generate its own fossil fuels. So I think that the dance with green energy is quite over.
Right.
Not to say that technology, I love technologies. If it works for you, there's places that things will work. And please, if it's going to work for you, allow it to work for you. And that's great, but don't force it. Things that really are helpful to civilization will be willingly accepted, and people will buy it if it actually serves them. And there's a big backlash too, because people do not want EVs. They do not want limited range. They do not want to have to wait 15, 20 minutes, for a hookup when you can spend 5 minutes gassing up. EVs are not practical for everybody. EVs are not a solution. And, they also got battery fire issues, and a replacement battery can cost almost $30,000. So there's a lot of things with that technology. It's just not ready for prime time, like it's being thrust upon us, and people are beginning to see that. So that's one thing. And then again, in the realm of geology, I think I'm going to be having an upcoming post on supervolcanoes.
All
So
right.
that should be fun for people to look forward to reading. And as always, I follow COVID, and the talk about another collapse. There is a collapse in the demand for COVID booster vaccines, as well as the follow-up COVID drugs. People are quite done with COVID.
Yes,
So,
I think so. Well, I'm going
and
to recommend that you check out one topic. I know you like to, maybe you can write about that sometime in the future. Down in Acapulco, right down the coast there from you, they had this incredible hurricane, and we don't have time to get into it now, but I had a post over the other day at American Thinker about this, where people literally went to sleep thinking there was a tropical storm, no big deal. And they woke up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning with windows exploding. And from like 2 or 3 hours, it went from a tropical storm to a category 5. And it has completely devastated the city of Acapulco. And I was just, I don't know what happened, whether the computer models didn't work. I mean, there's a lot of people asking how did this happen? So maybe you can take a look at that
I'll give you a
sometime.
brief thing. First of all, yes, the computer models failed to work because we are in an El Nino season. El Nino seasons tend to really help escalate the rapid development of these storms. These storms are known to impact the area. There's a whole history of Category 4 and Category 5 storms hitting those shores in an El Nino year, and we apparently are in an El Nino year. So, yeah, climate, welcome to planet Earth. We get weather, and sometimes our weather is a real kick in the posterior, this is one example. Build, prepare, and if they can't predict a category 5 storm coming in on shore within 24-hour period, how are they supposed to be predicting what the weather's going to be like in 30, 40, 50
Right,
years?
exactly.
I gotta, I gotta ask the question.
No, you're right on target. That was exactly what I was going to say. I mean, if you cannot tell me, if I go to sleep, I mean, and I know people who live in Acapulco, and they live there because they work there. It's not just a tourist attraction. There's a lot of businesses there, and they tell people who went to bed at 11 o'clock, 11:30 normal time. It was raining outside, no big deal, and then at 3 o'clock in the morning they wake up to broken windows and they have to hide in their bathroom. I mean, it was devastating, and the models didn't work, or the weather people didn't see it. So you're right. If we don't see a category 5 coming in 2 hours, how can we see something happening in 30 years? I don't know. It's a very good question, Leslie. Maybe that's the next title for your post, something like that. Why don't you think of that?
Right.
Something like that. But again, it's always a great honor. It's a great pleasure to have you. I hope you have a wonderful day with your family in the West Coast. And thank you so much, as always, for giving us your wonderful input.
Yeah, and looking forward to spending more time with you in the upcoming year as we prepare for a presidential election. So the year countdown sort of beginning. So I'm sure I'll be back quite often with updates and opinions as we face this challenging year together.
Yes, well, I look forward to that as always. Anytime we have a chance to chat with you, it's always a lot of fun. So if I don't talk to you before Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving, and hopefully I'll talk to you before Christmas. So I don't have
Definitely
to.
before the end of the year.
I don't have to
Definitely.
wish you 2 holidays at one time.
No,
I'll
no,
just
no,
go
no.
one at a
We'll
time.
get in. We'll get in sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas,
All right.
I'm
Well,
sure.
thank you so much, Leslie. Good luck to you, and best to your son and to your family. And we'll hopefully talk very soon.
We will. All right. Bye, Silvio.
Bye bye, Leslie. Leslie Eastman, Legal Insurrection, just a wonderful guest, and always very interesting and very informative. And that's why we love having her on. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you later. Bye bye, everybody.